The great teacher Tendai, or Chiche, or Ji. His document, The Great Concentration and Insight, is the essence of his lifetime teaching and the heart of the whole spectrum of Shakyamuni Buddha's sacred teachings. During the more than 500 years after Buddhism was introduced to China, 10 teachers appeared, 7 in the north, 3 in the south. Their wisdom was as brilliant as the sun and moon, and their virtue was extolled throughout the country, right? These were excellent teachers. Yet they were confused, or didn't quite understand, as to which sutras were shallow or deep, inferior or superior, and as to the order in which they had been taught. Right? This is the story of Buddhism as it entered China. It was the great teacher Tendai, or Chiche, who not only clarified Shakyamuni's teachings, but also brought forth the wish-granting jewel of a single thought moment of life comprising the 3,000 realms from the repository of the 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo, and bestowed it on all the people in the 3 countries, right? India, China, Japan. This teaching originated in China. Not even the scholars of India could have put forward such a concept. So the great teacher Chang'an commented, quote, "There has never been anything to compare to the brightest and serenity of concentration and insight." And also, even the great scholars of India were not in a class with him, Tendai. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. I hope you're having a good day, that you're healthy and secure. If not, let's work on that. Let's increase your life condition toward its most complete expression. Yes? And while you're here, take a moment to like and subscribe. So important to grow this Sangha. It's our Bodhisattva work to propagate, so you're essentially doing that when you like and subscribe. We're just manipulating the algorithm of YouTube, using it in our favor. So deeply appreciate that. The doctrine of the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment of life, revealed in the 5th volume of The Great Concentration and Insight, is especially profound. We've talked about that many times here. And we're reading, if you haven't been watching these videos in succession, from another collection that I've put together with some specificity of topic, an assemblage I'm calling Nichiren On Karma, available as an ebook or a print book through threefold.com as an ebook, or lulu.com, which you can now get the print or the ebook there, although I'm vacillating about doing that. But there it is. So this is a collection of a few gosho where Nichiren talks from different viewpoints. What is karma? One of the central questions of anyone who starts practicing Buddhism, and certainly a topic that is grossly misunderstood all over the place, even amongst, as we're reading now, Buddhist scholars. They're confused. They're using it incorrectly. And it's an easy thing to do because language. So hopefully we're unraveling that a bit through this series, focused on karma. And I'm sharing with you insights and hard-fought insights sometimes of over 40 years of practice and study and research. And not that I'm the know-it-all, but hopefully as the Sangha is a designed opportunity for like minds to communicate, we can hone our own insights. And so by sharing mine, I hope only to help you sharpen your insights, right? Because we all attain Buddhahood through our own mind. So I'm just throwing my hat in the ring. Nichiren continues, if you propagate it, devils will arise without fail, right? Because whenever you, and the analogy I've used time and time again is the little kid in the crowd who says, the emperor's naked. Such an innocent, clear voice of true perception, honesty begetting dignity for that young voice, raising out and saying in the crowd, a crowd that's totally deluded and accepting their delusions as real for myriad reasons. The story, of course, of the emperor's new clothes. If you're not familiar, Google it. It's so pertinent to our time. It's prescient. It could be a Buddhist teaching. In fact, it is, right? Because ultimately all teaching is Buddhist teaching. Anything that hones your ability to understand how our mind, our tricky brain, as we discussed in the recent video on emptiness and karma. I don't know what, in the last few videos, I see myself constantly touching my face. I do bathe. So rest assured. Anyway, back to Nichiren. Much more interesting topic. If you propagate it, devils will arise without fail. Nichiren talks about this dichotomy constantly. It certainly existed during Shakyamuni's day. When you're the one who sticks out in the crowd, is willing to call the truth, there's always several components, right? The people who go, oh, they're so relieved. Oh, somebody else said it. I didn't have to say it. I don't have to maintain this illusion, this guise of bullcrap. I can now relax because somebody broke the ice. Somebody said what needed to be said. Phew, glad it wasn't me, right? Then there's the reaction, oh, crap, he said it out loud. We're not supposed to say that, right? The people who know in their hearts the truth, but, we'll play along to get along, right? And those in Buddhism, certainly in Nichiren's day, would be called enemies of Shakyamuni Buddha. The worst kind, because they know better, right? They're not ignorant. They're willfully ignorant. Boy, do we know that, right? Anyone who looks at politics today, not that it's new today, but it's so obvious, yeah? And then the other kind, you've shattered the illusion. What do we do now? I don't know what to say. Is the emperor naked? Because I've believed for so long that seeing his tallywhacker hanging out there was just my imagination. Right? There's people like that too. All of those are the myriad delusions of the samsaric brain. Our wonderful brain creates every kind of illusion we think we need. Why? Not because we're born liars, although we may lie consistently. Point is, we may lie consciously, we may lie out of some sense of necessity, we may lie because we're just stupid, ignorant. Not the same thing, I know, but Because our primary motivation as a creature, an instantiated construction of physical, universal energy, our primary directive is to continue. Next moment, I want it. I have to have it. I don't want to go away. Yes, I know, I should have said survival, but survival has its own charisma, doesn't it? That word. I want to survive. What do you really mean? You just want to have the next moment. You need to own it. It's mine. It's why we breed. We know we're going to die, so we want to own the moments after we die. We can do that in a way by spawning offspring. I can stay here. That's a real physical way of staying here. The mystical, magical way of staying here is like, oh yeah, there's an afterlife. I'll be here forever. I'm eternal. But, I know I won't be here, so what do I do? What do I call that? What do I call that bag of me, that hefty bag of all my ownership? Oh, let's call it a soul. Plenty of videos on this channel about that. It's one of the first things Shakyamuni busted, one of the first myths he busted, right? He changed the meaning of karma, gave people responsibility for their own lives, which scared a lot of people. But there's plenty of us who are like, yeah, finally, I'm in control. Yeah. We don't know what that really entails. That's why we study and practice, yeah. But one of the other big things was this idea that this is it. The sentient mind is what provides for all of this experience, right? You hear it all the time on TV shows. When something is brain dead, it is dead. Or what we call in Buddhism, extinction. Why do we call it extinction? It's not because the species dies out. It's because the mind, the sentient mind, there's nothing to support it being. It's gone. So enlightenment, Buddha-ness, the experience of life, it occurs in the sentient mind. It doesn't occur in the atoms and molecules and DNA. That's all the mechanisms of karma to provide for, even the brain, for this emergent property that you can't analyze it. You can't take tests of it. You can't identify atoms or molecules or chemistry or biology of the mind. The mind is what Buddhism is about. And the mind is the only reason you and I are communicating right now, and avails us to the true experience of the engine of life. Everything else is just support for this ability. What an amazing realization, yeah? All the more reason we need to hone that mind so we don't miss a moment. If they did not, again, if you propagate this knowledge, the 3,000 realms in a single thought moment, one moment leading to the next, previous moments, not important. We're living, we're not lived, right? If you're spending your life attached to maintaining the past, you could say you've already died. And in this next moment, if you awaken, Namo Myo Renge Kyo, well, there's your afterlife. It's happening now. So, if you propagate this awareness of each moment being the life, leading, because momentum, this into the next, you're going to shake a lot of trees. A lot of people don't want to hear that. So obstacles will arise without fail. if they didn't, there would be no way of knowing that this is the correct teaching. If your awareness that the emperor is naked doesn't create in the crowd some reverberation, then yawn, yeah. Right? One passage from the same volume, we're in the Concentration and Insight now, reads, quote, "As practice progresses and understanding grows," more and more insights, right? "The 3 obstacles and 4 devils emerge in confusing form, vying with one another to interfere." So this is a reference to other previous teachings in Buddhism, in Shakyamuni's sermons, identifying obstacles of the mind. These are the kind of things that are bound to arise, some from within your mind, some from the response in your environment to the thoughts in your mind. I'm not going to go into them all now here, but just know that that's what that's a reference to, yeah? One should be neither influenced nor frightened by obstacles. If one falls under their influence, one will be led into the paths of evil. In other words, lower experience. You'll be mizzled, right? Sometimes we're not aware of how much we're influenced, or somebody very close to us says something, does something that we take on more intimately. Ultimately, we influence ourselves. We allow those potential influences to be instantiate within our own minds. There it is, potential into, right, formations. That formation from somebody's statement doesn't have to influence us, but if we allow it to influence us, what's that called? Energy plus action? Karma. Think about that for a moment, right? We hear this rhetoric all the time that karma is something we do. We immediately are told, we're taught this, that cause and effect is karma. But that is not so. That is not so. Karma is energy plus action, which means karma is the momentum itself, the formations. How many words can I attach to this idea so that you understand that karma is a process, not a thing, and it's not owned by you. You are manifest of an amazing amalgam of energies forming into you. You're a representation of a formation of the formation of you. You are karma. Constantly, moment to moment to moment, 3,000 realms in every thought moment. Put this together, now you understand influence, because influence is something that occurs in the formations of you-ness, suchnesses, right? So, did that person say something in your environment that physically changed you? Or did your mind accept, take on board something different, something new, something old, and then you incorporated it into your 3,000 realms in every single thought moment beingness, and therefore you've taken on, not from them, because they're doing their own thing, karma in your mind, taking this energy and acting upon it, karma, now influencing yourself with this new cause. Effect is the tertiary thing that happens, because now you're thinking with that, and now you are compounding that. But it's all happening in your own mind, and the actions you take based upon it, more karma. Cause and effect is kind of like the static electricity after you've rubbed your feet on a carpet. You've manifested results from the formations and forming karma in your momentum. They're really close coupled, but they are not one another. They are part of the process. One should be neither influenced or frightened by them. If one falls under their influence, one will be led into the lower paths. If one is frightened by them, one will be prevented from practicing the correct teaching. Because I'm afraid to move forward because something might happen. Should welcome stuff happening, just see it clearly. Hold it clearly and observe it, rather than inculcating it into your, right? Anyway, we could argue about that forever. This statement not only applies to me, Nichiren says, but also is a guide for my followers. Reverently make this teaching your own and transmit it as an axiom of strong resolve for future generations. Encoded in those words is this moment into the next. This is everything. This is the core. And Tendai, he said, unwrapped it, made it really obvious for us. And Nichiren is giving us a tool to instantiate this truth. That life happens in this moment into the next, that we are momentum. That karma is an ongoing soup of momentum, being like a big pot, right? You're just one of those pots. There are many, many, many pots of karma. Action instantiating, fulfilling its momentum, formation. And every single bit, in every thought moment of light, the mind is absorbing influences to spice up, change the flavor of that pot of karma. Did you put too much salt? Did you put too much salt because somebody kept offering it to you and you didn't observe well enough to say, no more salt? This is life. At its very primal core, energy. The three obstacles in this passage are the obstacles of earthly desires. I like salt. The obstacle of karma. How is karma an obstacle? There it is again. Translation gets muddy here. But let's look at that. This is Nichiren saying the obstacle of karma. How is karma an obstacle? Well, it's so fundamental that we influence formations without being conscious of what we're doing. So how many times have you asked yourselves, let's move out here a few steps and talk samsarically. How many times have you observed in your life, damn, that's a bad habit. Where did I pick that up? When did I start doing that? That's exactly what this is talking about. At a much more profound level of actual consciousness, but it's the same thing because that habit started there. And it may represent 1 billion decisions, little tiny decisions you've made over time in your momentum as you've accrued these little influences, and now you have this bad habit. But you constructed it, so obviously you can unconstruct it. Sometimes you can unconstruct it simply by recognizing it, and poof, that's not going to influence me anymore. This leads us into addictions, but I always seem to get in trouble, well, not always, when I start talking about addiction, because people are addicted to the idea of addiction because it relieves you of responsibility. But I'm talking about addiction here. I'm not talking about how far gone your addiction has gone to shut down organs and so forth in your body. That's a very real thing to contend with. I'm not denying that. But I am talking about that addiction is a construct of your own making. Just because you realize that doesn't end the damage you've caused with it. You have to be intelligent about that. But it does mean that you're not forever addicted. Your friends of Bill out there, cock of crap. It may help, but my contention is it just creates a new addiction. Whatever. I'm going off again. And the third obstacle is of the consequences. Not retribution, that's the wrong term, and I need to change that. The consequences, obviously, everything has a consequence, right? Isn't that karma? Isn't that really what we're talking about when we say cause and effect? This is why we say cause and effect are really two words for the same thing. Right? You take an axe to a piece of wood, you can't be surprised that the wood is damaged or cut or whatever you want to call it. Right? There's a consequence to that action. You can't decide to make the action and then, I don't want it to have consequence. Or I want the consequence to happen 3 years from now. No, it happens the moment you do it. That's karma is instantaneous, yes? The obstacle of earthly desires, Nichiren continues, is the impediments to one's practice that arise from greed, anger, and foolishness, and the like. Right? This is the nature. Earthly desires are kind of a mindless, brain-created necessity, we think, for our maintaining our life, whatever that is. At its fundament, yeah, of course, it's food, shelter, sex, yeah? But on a more subtle note, it's what you think you need. 3,000 realms in a single thought moment. You collect those over time, right? I can't live without my honey bunches of oats every morning. I know it sounds silly. But truly, these are the karmic obstacles of earthly desires. They continue, the brain keeps continuing that need for satiation, like sugar or cigarettes or insert vice here. And the way Nichiren says it is, these are obstacles to your practice. In other words, your attachment to sugar, for instance, that I just mentioned, is inhibiting your mind of Buddha, your connection with Gohonzon. It's being put aside in favor of having that frickin' donut. I'm serious. Right? Because if you were using your mind of enlightenment, you would not see that donut as a satiation, a pleasure. That's all earthly desires. And it's not good for you, for your body. And if your body's sick, your mind is diminished. Anything that diminishes cognition, your mind's function for Gohonzon, is in terms of these writings evil. Anything. Not knowing that is foolishness. Manipulating that is anger. And casting aside your gohonzon for this tremendous desire you wish to fulfill is greed. Greed, anger, foolishness. There they are. At work constantly in our lives, isn't it? Because the brain wants what the brain wants. It ain't the heart, folks. It's the brain. The obstacle of karma is the hindrances presented by one's wife or children or others. As I was saying earlier, the influences we allow to penetrate and become part of the way we move through time, through karma. That's where many teachers would say you create karma, but you haven't created karma. You've simply imprinted colorations on your karma. The karma is the energy. The energy is happening. Right? Think of it like a flow of a river. You are the flow of a river. And as you're flowing along, you take a whole bucket of red dye and you toss it into the river. Have you altered the flow of the river? Hell no. But you've colored it. You've changed its characteristics. You've affected the river. But the river's the river. It's karma. You haven't changed that. You've altered your experience of it. That's really important to understand. I think that's the subtle point that most people miss. Most teachers, most practitioners, right? And the obstacle of, again, retribution. I'm going to update this file and change that. Got to make a note. I always forget these things. The obstacles created by consequences appear as is the hindrances caused by one's sovereign or parents. In other words, they're the larger karmic container that our karmic container is navigating through. The river flowing is affected by the earth, the depth of the channel it's flowing in, the width of the channel it's flowing in, the air pressure above it, the skies, the trees, the roots, the rocks, the fish. You see? The larger conditions in which that river of karma flows affect the flow of that karma. How can they not? You see the picture now? In Japan today, Nichiren continues, many people claim they have mastered the practice of concentration and insight. But is there anyone who has actually encountered the 3 obstacles and the 4 devils? Have they confronted those realities? Or are they just happy in their own minds going, I've perfected this? Refusing to look at their environment. That's what he's saying. Saying they've accomplished something in their heads, in their mind, without understanding that their mind is a river flowing in a context. Has that changed? Has that had any resistance? Have they succumbed to those influences? The statement, if one falls under their influence, one will be led into the lower paths, indicates not only the 3 evil paths, lower paths, but also the worlds of human and skies and spaceborne beings, right? The 10 worlds, the 10 realms. And in general, all of the 9 worlds, except Buddhahood, right? Therefore, with the exception of the Lotus Sutra, all of the sutras, those of the flower garland the agama, the correct and equal, the wisdom periods, and the nirvana and mahavarachana sutras will lead people toward the lower paths, the paths of evil, the paths of running your life with blinders, right? Also, with the exception of the Tendai school, the adherents of the 7 other schools are in reality wardens of hell who drive others toward the evil paths. Now, this is Nichiren's polemics, right? But he's not wrong. In the context of what he's saying about Tendai's enlightenment and what he's pointing to in our moment-to-moment instantiation of life, momentum into the next. Yeah, he's absolutely right. Anyone who doesn't get this is actually misleading you. Actively. Also, with the even in the Tendai school are found those who profess strong resolve in the Lotus Sutra, yet actually lead others toward the pre-Lotus Sutra teachings because their rhetoric hasn't changed. Their habit energy of believing or being attached to the rhetoric of earlier unenlightened teachings is how they communicate, even the Lotus, because they haven't incorporated this simple, logical, immediate, moment to moment, 3,000 moments in a single thought moment leading into the next. They bypass that because that's just too complicated. It's not complicated. It's just that it's uncomfortable to be that aware of one's own actions. Puts a lot on you. You have to own it. They too are wardens of hell who cause people to fall into the evil paths because with their words and their influence, they cause others to make karma that is not clear, unclear, untrue. And they inculcate it into their life, their moment-to-moment truth, but it takes them away from the truth. The emperor's freaking naked. Now he gets back to, now he's illustrated this whole excursion or analysis of the mind and the scholarship before him. Nichiren now turns to, again, the people he wrote this letter to, the 2 brothers, the Ikegami brothers, right? Now you 2 brothers are like the hermit and the man of integrity. Remember the story we talked about in the last video, right? If either of you gives up halfway, you'll both fail to achieve Buddhahood. Because see that, there it is again, when your brothers, sisters, your relatives are the closest to you. So you influence each other more quickly, more deeply, without question. And this is a dangerous thing, to lose your way to Buddhahood, because these influences are so intimate. They happen without our being conscious of it. If either of you gives up halfway to your enlightenment because of your influences with one another, you're the logical heir to dad. No, he said you're the heir. No, so let's argue about all of this filial, cultural, traditional, and forget about Buddha-ness. You see? So the 2 of you are like the man of integrity and the hermit, arguing about how to do something so much that you forget the goal. You are like the 2 wings of a bird, or the 2 eyes of a person, and your wives are your support. Women support others, and thereby cause others to support them. Well, this is human behavior he's talking about, but he's being intimate with the brothers right now. And could you imagine, just to go back to that two wings of a bird, if one wing decided I'm going this way, how would the trajectory of the bird look? Would it look direct? Would it look determined? Or if the two wings of the bird were arguing back and forth on which way to go, would the bird look like a lot of lost energy going this way, that way, zigzagging up, down? Where are you going? It's a great analogy. If you have a partner in life, I don't care, brother, sister, wife, husband, whatever, friend, associate, right? This is the nature of relationships. I get questions about relationships all the time. If you recognize in yourself a behavior that you think is precipitated by the behavior of another, don't look at the other, look at yourself. Why are you changing your behavior based on the behavior of another? I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm saying that's what you should analyze. Is your behavior changing to support, correct, and elevate the other? Great. Bodhisattva. Is your behavior changing because you're inculcating the influence? Are you now doing things you wouldn't normally do that don't, right, the focus, Buddhahood? Does this direction not lead you to Buddha? Are you the bird floundering in the air? Or do you know where you're going? And are you using that determination to affect the other in the relationship? Or is it the reverse? When a husband is happy, his wife will be fulfilled. If a husband is a thief, his wife will become one too. Now, this is a husband-wife analogy, but this is the influence of relationships, all relationships. We have Western fables about this, right? If you hang out with friends, some of whom steal things, how long will it take before you start to condone, because you're already condoning it, it's your friend, the act of thievery? How long will it be before you get caught? Oh, but I thought they were for everyone. I just took one. Right, okay. You're being influenced by the behavior of your relationships. So if you don't want to be like that, you either need to stand up to it and correct your friend, or get the hell away from them, because they're a bad friend. They're a bad influence. Oh my goodness. Is that Buddhism? You heard it all your life. Right? Things don't become cliches because they're not true or don't have truth in them. A husband and wife are as close as a form and its shadow, flowers and fruit, roots and leaves, in every existence of life. Insects eat the trees they live in, and fish drink the water in which they swim. If grasses wither, orchids grieve. If pine trees flourish, cypresses rejoice. Even trees and plants are so closely related. Look at the aspen groves, yeah? Even trees and plants are so closely related. The hyoku is a bird with one body and two heads. Mythic. Himoku are fish. Oh, both of its mouths nourish the same body. Sorry. Himoku are fish with only one eye each. So the male and female remain together for life, so they can have two eyes. A husband and wife should be like them. You two wives, now he's speaking to the two brothers' wives, because he knows they're going to read this too, should have no regrets, even if your husbands do you harm, because of your strong resolve in this teaching. Right? The quibbling between you two is an obstacle, right? Karma. If both of you unite in encouraging your husband's strong resolve, you will follow the path of the Dragon King's daughter and become a model for women attaining Buddhahood in this latter age. Insofar as you can act this way, no matter what may happen, Nichiren will tell the two sages, the two skies and spaceborn kings, the 10 demon daughters, Shakyamuni, and many treasures to make you Buddhas in every future existence. A passage in the Sixth Paramita Sutra says to become the master of your mind rather than let your mind master you. There's this whole teaching in a very simple statement, but understanding where this statement comes from lends a lot of profundity, depth of understanding to this simple sentence, right? You've heard it before in many ways, not just from Buddhism, but within the context of what Buddhism explores in mental cognition, the way we create, there I am saying it again, the way we influence karma, the way we manipulate karma. It's a very big context and profound in its implications when we say, be the master of your mind rather than your mind mastering you. Without context, oh, that's a nice thing to say, but have we ever understood what that really meant? It's a very important teaching. And we're going to end on that today. And we're on page 48, so I have to remember that. Where'd my pencil go? Anyway, I will remind you as we close out this podcast today, do your bodhisattva best in life. A little part of that is like and subscribe this video. Help us grow this Sangha, yes? Use the resource. That's what this is for. Use this resource to build your confidence, build your profound experience of life. Use threefoldlotus.com. Lots of free info there. Just posted a new one the other day, right, on emptiness. If you can, download the ebooks. The little bit of contribution, money, to be crass, helps support, keep this effort going. So do purchases of the print books. But mainly, create a library for yourself. There's already a library started on threefoldlotus.com. It's all free, right? If it's helpful, download the audio podcast, right? The Buddhahood podcast. You can listen to me yakking. If it's supportive, if it helps you gain your renge moments, your aha moments, your own insights, man, make use of it. Your practice is everything. You can't find Buddhahood anywhere else. You can't buy it. You can't trade it. Only you can manifest your personal experience of life at its fullest. Namo Myo Renge Kyo. To do that, you need to be healthy. So take care of your health. Be kind. And I'll see you in the next one. Promise. Okay? Bye for now.